Hey everyone, good morning. You're joining me today on another little foraging walk. It is November. It's very, very cold. We've had a little bit of frost overnight, which makes me a bit worried about mushrooms because a lot of mushrooms don't like the frost. I'm foraging today in a local village. Well, it's actually the village I grew up in Kent. There's a lot of walks here where I've come across different mushrooms in the past, also hoping to find maybe some rosehips, some hawthorn berries to maybe make some tea from. We're not just going to look strictly at mushrooms today. As I say, I think that a lot of mushrooms may have gone for the season, or at least the ones that I was foraging most recently. It's been getting down to sort of below zero at night, so yeah, that frost is, I mean, even now it's 11:30 and my hands are freezing holding them outside of my jacket. But yeah, it's a really, really lovely day. We've got really lovely blue skies and just hopeful that we'll come across some things. Come along with me on this nice sort of relaxing midweek walk. We'll immerse ourselves in nature, a bit of a recovery day from the busyness of work and everyday life. So here we go. As if right on cue, we've come across some rosehips right here. I'm just going to pick some to show you guys and try not to cut myself in the process. Right in the depths of the brambles, of course, very fun. I'll leave a few for the birds. This is what they look like. Beautiful red colour. Rosehips have 20 times more vitamin C than oranges, so amazing for this time of year to fight off all those flus and colds that are sort of getting passed around. So rosehips actually come from the dog rose, and we believe it may have been called that because the roots of a dog rose were said to cure a rabid dog bite. Or the other idea is that it's from the word, we used to call them in Old English, dag rose, which dagger for their very spiky stems here. So believe what you want, but be foraging some of these, hopefully to make some tea today. Lovely find, and we found these immediately, which I'm very happy about. So rosehips are best picked just after the first frost, so I timed it quite well, being sort of mid-November. I think that's just because it softens them up a bit. I've just come across some other red berries, which for a beginner forager you may get a little bit confused with your rosehips. So this little berry here is actually called a hawthorn berry. Grows on a hawthorn bush, I believe. Not a berry that's particularly been favoured in our history in medieval times. I think they were more of like a, if you're absolutely scarce of berries, these are what you would pick, and if you're desperate in a famine. But I don't think they were ever sought after. I think I'm going to leave these just because I don't think I'll get much use out of them at home. But just one worth knowing. I think I've actually read recently in a book that I've got, I think in India they actually plant these to be eaten, so maybe they're popular in some places. Do tell me if you use hawthorns for anything. I think they can make a nice wine or jelly, but I don't want to be making either of those if I'm honest, so it's not one I'm going to pick loads of today. So right now I'm perched in the ground next to what I believe is a Shaggy Inkcap. So the spot I came to today, I see a lot of Shaggy Inkcaps in usually. However, with this super cold sort of last few days we've had, I'm not surprised that there aren't loads popping up here. But usually I see some maybe sort of this big here. The one I found today, I mean, I'm not going to pick him because he's so young, but it's not even the size of my pinky finger yet, so really, really small. So Shaggy Inkcaps, they're part of the Inkcap genus of mushrooms. Inkcaps are what's called deliquescent, which is basically where they turn to ink as they age. Their ink was actually previously used in medieval times to write with. They are edible, the Shaggy Inkcap is. So today if I'd found some, I would have made a soup with them, which I found in a recent recipe book that I've been reading for wild foods. There are other ink caps in this genus which don't react well with alcohol. So if you were to eat a regular ink cap, I believe, which I'll try and pop a picture in if I can, if you were to eat one of those and then also drink alcohol within 48 hours, I think you would get really, really sick. But the Shaggy Inkcap doesn't have that same effects. I think it used to also be called the judge's wig or something, because it does have that shaggy sort of tall look to it. It's almost like a very elongated head pointing out of the ground. So yeah, sadly not one I'm going to take today because it's very young, but a good find, and I'm still glad I found one even if it was very young. Just found some more Rosehips, so going to pick some more of these to take with me home for some tea. You can really see how soft these Rosehips can go. So this one's gone quite mushy, probably with all the frost. Take a couple more, and then look for some tea tonight now. Speaking of tea, I definitely want some for myself now because it is so cold. My hands are literally freezing. Very good idea to bring a flask with you when you're foraging in winter and late autumn. It's very chilly. Let's keep going. I've recently been reading a book. I think it's called The Wisdom of Trees. I'll pop the name up on the screen in case I've got that completely wrong. But in that book, I've been learning a lot about the native trees of Britain, when they kind of showed up here millions and millions of years ago. And silver birch, I actually believe to be one of the, I think it was one of the older trees that has been here a very long time. All these markings that you see on silver birch, which really characterise them, that kind of sit amongst their silverish, whitish sort of bark here. So trees actually are able to breathe through their bark as well, and it substitutes for sort of this time of year, I suppose, when they're shedding their leaves in preparation to kind of hibernate in some ways, I suppose, for winter and to preserve their energy. So that's why they get rid of their leaves through the winter months when it tends to be colder, darker, less sunlight. So these, I think they're called lacerations on the bark. This is where the tree is able to sort of breathe through. And when the tree sheds its bark, silver birches are renowned for sort of peeling away their bark over time. This is actually to shed it of pollutants and rid it of any unwanted sort of pests and different things that might be growing on it, or I don't know, maybe it's got an infestation of some sort of insect. So yeah, I just think knowing things like this about nature, just it brings you much closer to nature. I think even knowing the name of the trees is beautiful, but understanding the process and the cycle and why the cycle of nature happens like it does. And it's just amazing, all of these things that you might just walk past and think, oh, that tree's got a nice pattern on it. Well, actually, it's helping it breathe. And that's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. So, yeah, just something I learned in that book. I would really, really recommend it. I think it's a beautiful book and very well written. I may do a book review on it. So if you would like to see that and hear my thoughts on it and share some of the other cool facts I learned, then please do let me know in the comments. I've just been trekking through this bit of woodland now for the last 10-15 minutes. See the lovely blue sky. I'm not having much luck, and I think it's purely just because it's been so cold. The mushrooms aren't really coming up. Hopeful to have found some wood bluets, but I don't think the odds are in my favour today. So yes, I'm going to try and find a path and head out of here. I think found this sweet little tunnel. I'm pretty sure I just found a load of ink caps. So those were the ones that are related to the Shaggy Inkcap and that you actually can't eat and then drink alcohol because they make you really poorly. I don't really know much about ink caps otherwise, other than they turn to ink. They're actually quite ugly looking things, if I'm honest, and a little bit alien like. Yeah, just thought I'd show you those. Got some more Rosehips up here. These ones look quite big actually, very, very good to take. Found something rather interesting here. I don't know what these mushrooms are, but they've got quite a big umbo, I believe it's called, or a nipple on the head, and they're very tall. There are two of them. I don't think they have an egg sac at the base. I don't want to pick them because I don't know what they are, but it doesn't look as though they've grown from a vulva. So one to ID when I get back. I think it's time to stop briefly and have a little bit of tea. It really is bitterly cold. My tea's starting to get a little bit cold now as well. Have you been foraging in November yet? And if you have, what have you found so far? Starting to hear a lot of Christmas music being played in all the shops at the moment, and it's starting to certainly feel very wintry with all of this cold weather, although technically in the calendar November is still autumn. All the trees are losing their leaves, a cold wind is coming in. It's certainly feeling cosy and a bit more festive now. I certainly won't be putting a tree up or any decorations until December though. When it does come to December, I do like to try and make decorations from sort of recycled materials or using nature as my inspiration. So maybe this year I'll look for pine cones, or I'll make some paper chains, or dry out some oranges and hang them or something. So I might make a video on that when the time comes. It's nice to try and not get caught up in all the consumerism that tends to kind of be shoved in our face in the winter months leading up to Christmas. And I think just being mindful of the environment, and that a lot of the Christmas stuff that gets bought or isn't bought ends up in landfills, because there are people that, you know, might replace their decorations every Christmas or don't have any space to keep it, so it gets thrown away. And I really don't want to be a part of that culture. Hence why I try and make decorations, and rather than going out to buy them from these, you know, from my local Asda or something, because ultimately it will probably end up at a landfill at some point, and I'd rather not play a part in that in society. That's not to say I'm perfect. We all do little things every day that we don't even realise probably have a huge effect on the environment. But I think it's the small things that matter, whether it's walking to the gym rather than driving, cycling to your workplace instead of driving, or remembering to recycle your jars. It's important to keep the environment in mind. I've just found something that I've been wanting to show you for this walk, but I haven't been able to find a tree that actually had any on. So just behind me, and as I've just shown you, is a lovely big yew tree. Yew trees, I think, are actually, or is, the oldest tree that we actually have in Britain. I want to say it's in Herefordshire, but I'll double check that. And they hollow out as they get old, so they don't have the rings that you can count like other trees such as oak. So we can't actually, confidently say how old it is, but I think it's 2,000 years old or something, like incredibly old. So you'll always find these in graveyards. They have some connection to faith, I think. I can't quite remember. But yew trees are poisonous, so the leaves of this, if you had a small handful, they would be enough to kill you. They basically create cardiac arrest, something to do with your cardiovascular system. The berries on this, though, the little red berries I've just shown you, they are edible, except for the pip. So the little stone in the middle, you would have to spit that out. Otherwise, you would, if you ate enough of them, you would end up, I think, having a cardiac arrest. Not one that I'm confident enough to eat, and I wouldn't want to pick them just out of, it's just not for me. It's a bit too risky, but one that you can eat and apparently does taste really, really yummy. One I'm going to leave behind today. My car is telling me that it's 3 degrees outside, so I've come to another destination just to see if we'll find anything new, but I don't think we'll hang around for too long because 1, it's getting dark, and 2, it is incredibly cold, so let's see how we get on. I think what I've just found is a load of wax caps. So, wow, this one is, wow, very amazing colour on it. It's a bit mangled and it had fallen over, so I think he's towards the end of his life anyway. But it's yellow and green, so I know there's a green wax cap called the Parrot Waxcap, and there are some wax caps which are quite endangered, so you shouldn't sort of pick too many of them. There are quite a few here, but yeah, what an amazing colour, absolutely gorgeous. Wax caps, like the name, are a bit waxy and sort of sticky on top. A good one to look out for in the winter when you're foraging. Yeah, amazing colour on that, very pretty. Unsure what this guy is, but as you just saw, I was breaking away the gills quite easily, which leads me to think it's brittle gill. But very, very bright orange cap. So very colourful. Everything that seems to come out in November is colourful for the season. Time when it's quite dreary and not much colour going on. The fungi and berries are all bright and colourful. Lots of what looks to be turkey tail on this old bit of log here. Very bright again. So we found turkey tail in one of my most recent videos. Has medicinal properties, supposedly, anti-cancerous properties. Again, not a medical professional, but one sort of keeping in mind, and maybe adding to some tea. So I think I'm going to make my way back to the car, or at least back to a main road, just so that I'm not out in the middle of nowhere. I also don't have any signal here, which is not very safe. So yeah, worth getting back to some civilization. Really quick one. So acorns, really lovely big ones that have been dropped by the big oak tree above me. They used to be used, it's actually a seed coming out of this one, it's starting to sprout. But they used to be used to make coffee, and you still can make coffee from them. I think in the World Wars they did that when they were desperate, and yeah, they can be made into a coffee. I suppose that means they're caffeinated in some way, or I don't know, they had a similar taste. But apparently it's not as good as the real things. People don't really bother doing it anymore, and the process of making it is quite extensive. So yeah, not one to take, but yeah, look at them all. They're really sprouting. So I'm going to leave them to do their thing and take root beneath the big oak tree. Thank you for watching. Really enjoyed today. Glad to be going home, eating some food and getting cozy now. If you enjoyed this video, you'll probably like some of my other foraging videos. This video will be part of a foraging playlist, so do check that out if you think that you would like more of my content. So yeah, thank you very much and have a nice evening, morning, day, whatever time it is for you. Thanks.